right, welcome to another installment of our weekly online Bible study. We've been doing the last several weeks talking about the idea of integrity. And the first week we talked about a couple of different definitions of integrity, one of those being the idea of structural integrity. Like we talked about an airplane, for example, has structural integrity. That means that when it's designed to fly at a certain altitude, certain speed, certain temperature, do certain maneuvers, that it stays together, it holds together. It's an integrated one as an airplane. So if it's meant to dive great depths, quickly, it can hold up to that. But depending on what it's called for, it might be made up in different ways. Might be different materials used. A fighter jet's going to be designed differently than a passenger jet. And so the structural integrity depends on the purpose and the calling. Integrity, as it relates to structural integrity, as it relates to how we're put together and where we hold true in the midst of our circumstances, in many ways depends on our circumstances. Us being designed and built a certain way to withstand what it is that's thrown at us in life. But if that's the case, then integrity then for us is kind of thriving in the midst of that. Our being able to manage life and not fall apart. Our ability to take the things that come at us in life and stay together, stay integrated as one. The next week we talked about Jesus interweaving the idea of integrity throughout the Sermon on the Mount. So many different passages are related to us, not just being honest, but us being who we are no matter where we are. Whether we're talking to somebody and we turn back and talk to somebody else, we're the same person. We're not hiding one element of ourselves to one group and presenting it to another. We're not two-faced in that way. And so integrity is not just one element. It really relates to a lot of different things. And one of those we talked about was being complete or whole. As we go through a couple of different ideas this week, they relate greatly, especially as we connect with one of the Bible verses that we're going to read, with the idea of being whole, complete, mature, what the Bible talks about when the Bible talks about us wanting to be presented as mature, perfect in Christ. And again, I don't think it means perfection in the sense that we want it, but completion, whole, mature. And so all of us make mistakes, but how do we handle that? That's one of the themes today is kind of how we handle the bad things. So we've been talking about a little bit, not every week even, but some of the ideas from Henry Cloud's book, Integrity, as they relate to what we're studying. And what he does, last week we really talked about two of his kind of dimensions of that. This week I want to kind of look at two more. One of those is, and it's very interesting, how do we handle the negative things in our life? Us being a person of integrity or not being a person of integrity has a lot to do with when something bad happens to us, how do we respond? When bad things happen in life, do we fall apart? Do we hold together? How do we handle that? Do we see it as a positive? Do we see it as a negative? And one of the things he says, and it's interesting, I'll show you in a minute where it's biblical, but he says people of integrity, people who've learned to succeed in life based on their integrity, are indeed people who embrace the negative. Not to say that they look out for the negative, not to say in that sense, but when there's something that's got to be done that's unpleasant, do we avoid it or do we do it? And so he says a lot of people, if they find something that's negative, even if it's something that we should do, but it's something we wouldn't enjoy, and he kind of uses the idea of going to the dentist. For the dentist to put our teeth in order in the right way, the things that we need, no cavities, all that, is something we would all say is important, but it doesn't feel good. It's not something we enjoy. And so he kind of uses that idea. But he also used another example from a boardroom that he went into. And in the boardroom, he walked up, and on the wall there was a statement. And it said, no problems, no profit. No problems, no profit. And the idea is this: businesses in large part are people that we pay money to solve a problem for us. If it's a grocery store, it's a problem of delivering food. The gas station, getting gas where we need it was convenient. We pay convenience stores for convenient food and drinks and beverages or whatever it is that we need. So we pay businesses to solve problems for us. And their idea was in this boardroom, if we don't want problems and we say, oh, we just need to be problem free, well, then there's no profit in that. Nobody's willing to pay us to deal with things that they're willing to do themselves, if that makes sense. If you hire somebody to be a lawn service, it's because you don't want to mow your yard. If you don't mind mowing your yard and get a perfectly good lawnmower and you're perfectly healthy to go out there and do it, and you don't have severe allergies every time you mow the yard, you just do it yourself. And so for people who say, well, I don't want any problems, it really takes away the opportunity for businesses to make a lot of money. In life, what he's trying to say there is problems are part of life. And if we look at them in a different perspective, then instead of being negative all the time when something bad happens or problem develops, then we look for the benefit in it. We look for some way of saying, well, there might be a silver lining in this cloud or something along those lines. And I think that's the truth. So as soon as we learn to accept difficulty instead of trying to avoid difficulty, then we can look at life in a different way. And it's not as difficult as we imagine. Here's the thing. If we want a straight path in our life, every little bump becomes a difficulty. But if we just want to live a full and happy and life where we grow and we mature and we develop, a few hills aren't the end of the world. In fact, a few hills in our journey will make us stronger as we climb them. Okay? Climbing a hill will give you also a better outlook from the top when you're looking back down over the next valley. There are benefits to the things that we go through in life. And when we do that, when we see it in a different way, we accept the difficulties of life instead of trying to avoid them at all costs, then what we're trying to do is not say, well, I'm avoiding them. We're trying to just be equipped for them. Okay. So we're trying to see them from a perspective that if there are going to be difficulties, instead of trying to avoid them, what would it look like if the next difficulty that came up, I was happy and I could handle that? Okay. And it matters for integrity's sake. And again, we'll get to that verse in just a minute, but the problems then aren't all necessarily bad. There are opportunities to develop a skill. Okay, something breaks us, an opportunity to learn how to fix it. But if we see it all the time as negative, then we're going to be so negative every time it happens, and we get upset. Oh, I'm so upset something bad happened. I used to get this way. I'd have a car and it'd break down. I get so upset that it broke down. Well, you know what? Sometimes it was an opportunity for me to figure out somehow how to fix it. And then I would fix it and I'd realize, you know what? I'm a little bit better off because I fixed that car, and it wasn't the end of the world. Maybe it wasn't the way I want to spend my day, but I was able to fix it and do something. And then I had greater confidence for the next time. I remember one particular time, I'm driving an old pickup, and the heater went out, the blower fan for the heat, and it was cold. And I didn't like that. And so I took it to a place, and they wanted, I remember just as clear as day, about $360 to fix it. Wow, that's crazy. So I went to the auto parts stores, often did. Maybe you were like me in a lot of ways when you had a car with a lot of miles on it. You buy the car with a lot of miles on it, and you go to the store and buy the book. Now we have the internet. We didn't need that, but I had the book. I can't remember what, Hayes or something, Haynes, maybe were the books, and you'd go to the auto parts store and you'd buy the book for that. And you'd see which one, year, and all that. And then you see all kinds of things. So I went to the auto parts store. This is right across from the place that quoted me, the $360 or something to fix my heater blower. And so I asked them, I said, do you sell that part? And they said, yes, we do. And I said, well, how much is that part? I'm thinking, if it's $360 fixed, the part's probably $300. And they said, no, it's about, I think it was $28. It may have been $32, whatever it was. It was not $40. And I thought, my goodness, how cheap that is. And so I asked the guy, I'm sitting there, and I said, is it hidden underneath the engine somewhere? Because I just got a price for $360, and this is like $30 or 10% of that. And the rest of it is to fix it. He said, no, it'll take about 15 minutes. And I said, yeah, it'll take you 15 minutes. Take me a little longer than that. He said, no, it's 3. They were either like 9/16 or 7/16 inch bolts, and I had a ratchet set. And you took 3 of them off, and there was a wire harness, and you pop it open. And I said, okay. So I bought the thing, and I took it out to the parking lot and lifted up the hood, and there, sure enough, it was sitting there, and I saw it. Okay, 3 bolts, that's pretty easy. Wire harness, okay, that's pretty easy. In about 10 minutes, had it fixed, turned in the old one. I think there was maybe a core charge or something, I don't remember. And I thought, wait a minute, why was I being charged $360? Now, I was upset because at the beginning of the day, because my heater, blower motor went out, and I was cold. At the end of the day, I was smarter, At the end of the day, I had more confidence. At the end of the day, not only had I not paid too much to have it fixed, but I had learned how to do something myself. And so how do you react to those times in life? You say, okay, well, it's negative, it's bad. Oh, it's been a bad day. God's not being good to me. What did I do wrong? Blah, 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 blah. Or you're just equipped to handle it, and you handle it and you move on, and you know, hey, the more I get equipped to handle things that come at me, no matter what comes at me, I'm going to be fine. And there's some benefit in that, right? Because we're kind of growing and we're better off than we were before. Not to say that that's the way we want to spend our day. It's not. And so if we look at it from that perspective, I'll read just a few verses out of the book of James, chapter 1, verses 2, 3, and 4. So I'll skip the part where it says, this is James, a disciple of Jesus Christ, or a servant of God. And he's writing it to, it's interesting, well, I'll go ahead and read verse 1, because it says to the diaspora, to those who are scattered. And the idea is by the time he's writing his letter to some of the disciples, they've been scattered out. And you think, oh, that's bad. Well, what does he say? Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet various kinds of trials, or trials of various kinds. Well, what do you mean, James, count it joy? Well, he's trying to say, look beyond the difficulty that you're in, to the point or purpose of that difficulty. Embrace it and see what good comes out of it. He says, for you know, the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. Let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Or a person of integrity, okay? A person who's integrated, a person who's mature, a person who's everything. So, okay, how do we get to that point? Daniel, tell us the truth. How do we get to be a person of integrity? Okay, go through difficult times and survive. That's the key. Fail before and don't give up. Keep going. Steadfastness means you try it once, you fail, you do it again until you don't fail. Something happens, you keep going. You survive. You survive. And so looking at it in that sense, we have to rediscover how we see difficulty. And if we rediscover how we see difficulty, many times it presents an opportunity that's greater than what we had first envisioned. And so what it means, though, is that a lot of times we leave our comfort zone, and we're not comfortable with that, are we? A lot of people say, no, we don't want that. Dr. Cloud suggests that it's about the ability to restore or repair quickly. So let's say it this way, okay? You're a child. You fall off your bicycle. What's the best thing to do? What's the best way? If you're a parent, what do you say? All right, you fell down. Get back up. Get back on that bicycle. What happens if you don't get on the bicycle today? Then tomorrow you're thinking, that's the one I fell. It gets increasingly more difficult to get back on the bicycle that you fell off of unless you just do it quickly. So integrity, part of what Dr. Cloud's saying, the ability that is beneficial for our lives as human beings to thrive in life, is no matter what comes our way and knocks us down, you just get back up and you keep going. The horse, you fall off the horse. What do? Get back up on that horse. Keep going. Don't quit. Find that restoration quickly. Be able to recover and repair quickly. And so a lot of times that's what we need to do. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I fall down off my bike. Who am I now? I'm a person who falls off my bike. It's a mindset, okay, that we need to get out of one mindset and get into another mindset. The mindset we need to get out of is, I fell, therefore I'm a person who falls. If we do that, it's harder to get to that place of success where I'm the successful person who knows how to ride a bike. And so what he's saying is sometimes you got to separate the results from the person. Just because I fell off my bike 3 times when I was learning doesn't mean I can't ride my bike. It just means I haven't yet. I'm still a successful person who's going to ride that bike. And so we have to see that from a different perspective. The more, though, that we assume that a temporary failure defines us, the more it will define us. And we'll be a quitter and we won't be able to keep going. A big thing that he says about facing negativity is that when we fail or when we have an issue, we all will. We all do. We're all going to have problems. We're all going to fall off our bike at some point or another. Do you take ownership or do you blame somebody else? The person of integrity, he says, is a person who, when something negative happens, takes full ownership of that. I fell off my bike. I wasn't paying attention. I did this. I did that. I was going too quickly. I hit that rock. I wasn't paying attention. Instead of blame. Now, how does that look like blame? Who put that rock there? Whoever put that rock there must not like me. They're out to get me. Somebody's out to get me. If everybody went out to get me, I'd be able to ride my bike. Maybe it's just a rock. Maybe there's nobody out to get you. Maybe the rain came and there was a little puddle and it floated over and it landed right in that place and nobody's out to get you. And everybody in the world wants you to ride that bike. But if you have the blame game going on in your mind, what's going to happen? You're going to blame people instead of accepting responsibility. And so he's saying, don't do that. So what we have to do is let go of the bad stuff. I remember when I was in high school playing basketball and somebody would miss a shot. Well, what would happen is if they had a couple of options, number one, forget about it and then shoot the next shot, right, hoping to make it. Or number two, go back to the other side playing defense, thinking the whole time I should never take another shot again. It's going to miss. And the next time what happens? If you think you're going to miss, you miss. If you think you're going to make it, you might not make it, but you had a better chance of making it if you're actually positive about it. So letting go of the bad stuff, learning how to handle difficulty in a constructive way is a very important tool. And so what it comes down to is we have options in life. There are bad things coming our way. We can either deal with them in one or two orders. One is we take the hard stuff, and then that's followed up by easy. In other words, we go to the dentist now. It's painful, it's bad, but then I have an easier road because I went to the dentist. The other part is I avoid the hard, I push that off, and I deal with the better part now, which is not being in pain because of the dentist. But guess what? The difficult's coming. So you can either have the difficult now, delay the gratification and enjoy that later and just deal with the difficult part now, or have the instant gratification but the delayed difficulty. And so what Dr. Cloud would say is from an integrity point of view, just go ahead and deal with it. If it's a negative thing, you got to deal with it. You got to do this thing that you don't want to do. Do it head on, do it with integrity, do it with the best of your ability, and then you'll be better off for it. There's another concept that's closely related to that, and we'll see that in one of the scriptures that we read. And it really is related to that passage in James, because what the Bible says is that through testing and hardships, God is able to work something of a sense of steadfastness in us, because it's not just us doing it on our own. And then that steadfastness, if we continue to develop steadfastness, leads to maturity and completeness and wholeness in the sense that God wants us to be that person of integrity or mature Christian. Again, that's God doing something in us. And so what Dr. Cloud suggests with integrity is connected to something bigger than me. And he calls it being oriented towards transcendent, that in life which is bigger than me. And he's mentioning it, of course, in the situation of being God, that there's a God out there. And he says it really clearly in a story at the beginning of the chapter he talks about. That as a psychiatrist, he's dealt with a lot of people. And he usually would sit down with somebody he was counseling and ask them one particular question. And he said everything else is really based off that one particular question. And the question is genius, quite really. Because what he would ask, and this is in a hospital environment, not in a church environment, but he would say, are you God or not? And the idea is that there's a benefit to going around knowing that we're not God and knowing that there is a God and yielding to God, versus the idea that some of us think that we can kind of be God of our own universe if we want to. The people who go around acting like they're their own God have issues, and the people who accept the fact that there's a God and I'm not him are better off in terms of integrity, more honest with each other. And so we're talking about finding a situation where something bigger than us is going on in life, and stopping a minute to acknowledge that and go in that direction. He shares a story, we've probably heard it, a famous illustration where there's a Navy warship out in the bay and it's foggy and they're trying to navigate through the night, and they come up and they see out in front of them there's a light coming in, and so they get on the radio and they say, hey, I don't know who you are, but we're heading your direction, you need to change course 30 degrees. And the person gets back on the radio and says, no, we're not going to change direction 30 degrees. You need to. And the guy says, wait a minute. I'm an admiral in the United States Navy, and this is a Navy warship. If anybody's going to move, it's you. And so I'm ordering you, direct order. The guy's in the Coast Guard on the other side, and it goes back and forth for a little bit. He said, I'm ordering you to move. Get out of my way. Change your course a degree, 30 degrees. And go around us. And the guy says, yeah, you might be, a Navy warship. You might be an admiral in the Navy. And you might outrank me as some pitiful, poor, lowly guy in the U.S. Coast Guard. But I'm sitting atop this lighthouse, and we're not moving. You are. And so the idea is that we can kind of go about our way in the sea, and we think we're the top dog. But the sea runs out and we run into land and we're all of a sudden not the top dog. So there's an idea in life to be consistent with ourselves where we think, I have all these decisions, I'm able to make my way in life, life is what I want it to be. Yeah, there's a point in which God is in charge and we're not. And so what it does, by just allowing God to be God in our lives, it takes away a major battlefield where we feel like we deserve or own or whatever, and we just let God be God. There's something highly full of integrity and completeness when we realize we're not the stuff, that God is the stuff. And then we don't have to pretend to be God in that way. And it's a wonderful thing. So this idea that there's something bigger than me, and this awareness is so important, that God is at work in the world, and that sometimes we show up in our little tiny portion of it. We don't even see what's happening until it's too late. And so I wanted to read just a few verses out of Psalm 61, 1, 2, and 3. And this is the psalmist, this is David. And he says, 61, hear my cry, O God. Listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth, I call to you when my heart is faint. The idea is pretty clear. David reaches a time as a human being where he's at the end of his rope. What does he do in that moment mentally and physically? Okay, he says, this is his prayer. Hear my cry, O God. This is prayer. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. That is a beautiful scripture. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the enemy. There's a time in life where we need to stop trying to be the answer ourselves and recognize that there's a higher answer. Recognize that there's a God who is higher than I. His ways are higher than my ways. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. And as we go through that situation, we need to stop and realize that he's God. And so what Dr. Cloud says is that the immature character, right, the person without integrity, asks for life to meet his demands. Okay, life, this is a bad month for my car to go out, so don't do it. Life, it's not a good time for me to be sick. Life, I can't handle this today. Whereas the person of character and integrity expects to meet the demands of life. Not life to meet his demands, but to meet the demands of life. That means I don't want to get sick today, but if I get sick today, it's okay. I can handle it. I don't want my car to go out today, but if it's okay, I'll make it through. I'll do something. I'll be able to handle and there's a flexibility in that. There's a sense of confidence in that. Again, not confidence in myself, confidence in that which is higher than I, to handle the situation that I'm in. To say, when I'm at my end, God's strength is made perfect in my weakness. And so there's something highly, highly beneficial in that. But there are times in life when we need to see that there's more going on. And it's helpful when we're in a difficult spot to see that there's a difficult thing going on. Dr. Cloud mentions the story of Tylenol. Many of y'all would know in the early 80s, and I think it was an employee, but anyway, some of the Tylenol was taken out of the bottles and they were laced with cyanide and put back on the shelf. And sold as Tylenol. People were taking Tylenol and dying. And that was before they put the seal on it, before all this other stuff. So it's actually part of the reason probably a lot of that got started. And so Tylenol had an idea. We can either save ourselves, right? We can try to save our company. We can deny it. There's very few bottles that are actually this way. We'll just leave it out there. Or what they could do, they met in their boardroom. This is something bigger is going on. People are dying. And instead of trying to save our company, why don't we do the right thing at the right time? And so what they realized is that there was this vast movement towards, it's your fault, what are you going to do with it? And they could deny it, not meet the demands of life. Or they could just say, we're going to do it no matter what. There's a sense of integrity, means I'm going to do the right thing no matter what. And so what did they do? They recalled everything, took it all off the shelf, cost them a fortune, right? Today, though, if you look at it, Tylenol survived. The Johnson & Johnson Corporation survived, right? Why? Instead of trying to save themselves, they just did the right thing. In a time of when integrity is needed, a difficult time in life, a time, when you're going through life and all you're thinking about is yourself, to stop, to say, I'm going to handle this negative situation. God's going to help me. There's something bigger going on. Is what can save us in the long run, where denying, hiding, delaying the difficulty, all that would end up getting us further and further in trouble, deeper and deeper into the problems that we're in. So there's a sense where if we want to be, like James said, if we want to be that mature Christian, that complete person that God calls us to be, well, when the trials come along, you just endure them. You survive. Sometimes that's all we can do is survive because they knock us down pretty hard. Get back up again, right? Keep going. Have a better sense of, well, now I'm stronger. You may knock me down yesterday, but I'm a little smarter today, so I can avoid that. Learn your lessons from life. See it in a positive sense, not just a negative sense. Not a why. Own it instead of just saying, blaming somebody else for it. And at the end of the day, that steadfastness develops that integrity in us so that when something big comes along, maybe it doesn't knock us down this time. Maybe we get to the end of our lives and you say, you know what, those things aren't as important as they were. And it's not that they aren't big waves that could knock us down. It's that we've gotten better at seeing those. We've gotten better at looking out for them. And now we're somebody stronger. And odds are what God was going to do is have us to look around, somebody who's being beat up by the waves, and say, hey, come with me. Let me show you a few secrets. That's all, after all, I think, the pattern of discipleship. One person helping another person find the lighthouse better, if you'll allow me to say it that way. So it's been fun talking about this idea of integrity. 4 weeks, I think, we've spent talking about the sense of integrity in the Bible, reading some of the passages, including the words of Jesus, talking about God's goal that we be a complete person, made perfect in Him, not perfection the way we sense it, but God is desiring to do something in us that's filled with structural integrity that we can meet the demands of life. And so I've had fun doing that with you because of the time of year that it is. Summer's coming, 4th of July holiday, vacation a little bit for me, vacation Bible school for the church. We're not going to have as regular videos for the next month. But then we'll pick back up soon and we'll have some new studies. So I hope that you're doing well. I look forward to seeing you soon in a few weeks again. And I hope that you have a great month of July and God bless you.